We move on. The gunman behind New Zealand's worst mass shooting has been sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. Brenton Tarrant killed 51 Muslim worshippers in Christchurch last year. The relatives of some of his victims spoke outside court just a short time ago. They say they're pleased that justice has been served.
Today, the legal procedures for this heinous crime has been done. No punishment will bring our loved ones back. We respect our justice system and the New Zealand Muslim community and the non-Muslim as well. We stood together against hate and we set a role model for the world.
Al Jazeera's correspondent Wayne Hay covered the shooting extensively for us here on this channel. He joins us live now from Bangkok. So Wayne, just talk us through the sentencing and what's happening today.
Yes, well, I think certainly a lot of relief, a lot of emotion will be pouring out in the hours ahead following that sentencing in the High Court in Christchurch, the city where that awful attack took place in March last year. The sentencing itself came on the fourth day of this process. The first 3 days were very emotional, harrowing accounts given by survivors of the attack, also family members of victims going through exactly what happened to them, addressing Brenton Tarrant directly, looking at him in the eye. And on the fourth day, that emotion continued when eventually the judge gave his sentence. It was a very long sentencing. He spoke for around 2 hours, detailing exactly what he thought about Brenton Tarrant and his actions. He called him wicked and inhuman, and certainly cast a lot of scepticism over his comments previously before the sentencing to psychologists, etc., that he'd given up his beliefs in the white supremacy ideology that apparently drove him to commit these attacks. The judge expressing a lot of scepticism that he had changed his mind. Well, let's have a look back now at that tragic day in March last year.
At just after 1:40 in the afternoon on the 15th of March last year, emergency services received the first calls. A shooting was underway during Friday prayers at the Al Noor Mosque in central Christchurch.
I saw one gun in the floor and police were to stop in here. There was a lot of people die, injured.
In total, 44 worshippers were killed by Brenton Tarrant at Al Noor in an attack he live-streamed on the internet. He then moved on to his second target across town, the Linwood Mosque, where he killed a further 7 people. The youngest victim just 3 years old, the eldest 77. He was arrested by police as he was making his way to a third mosque in a town nearby.
It is clear that this can now only be described as a terrorist attack.
That was determined because of the pre-planned nature of the attack and the ideology Tarrant subscribed to. The Australian had studied the layout of the mosques and their busiest times. He had uploaded a manifesto detailing his white supremacy beliefs and his hatred of Muslims and non-European immigrants. As the wider population rallied around the New Zealand Muslim community, attention turned to the high-powered weapons he fired, how he obtained them, and in some cases modified them legally.
I can tell you one thing right now. Our gun laws will change.
Less than a month later, most semi-automatic weapons became illegal, and a government buyback scheme for guns began. In March this year, Tarrant surprised prosecutors by entering a guilty plea. That meant there'd be no trial, but the judge wanted some of the 40 survivors and family members of those killed to have the opportunity to speak directly to the gunman in court. More than 60 statements were given during the sentencing.
He had no issue with Linda Armstrong. He didn't even know her. Instead, filled with his own racist agenda, this coward hid behind his big, powerful guns and shot little old Linda from afar. She never even stood a chance.
It took something away from me.
The sentencing of Brenton Tarrant may help provide some closure and healing, but his hatred and terror changed the lives of so many, and one of New Zealand's darkest days will never be forgotten.
Well, certainly a very difficult, emotional 4 days coming to an end for those people who were present in the courtroom giving those statements. But the sentence handed down by the judge in the Christchurch High Court will no doubt be welcomed by them. It was a historic sentence. Never before in New Zealand has a sentence of life without the opportunity of parole being handed down. So it was really as far as the judge could go. As difficult as it was for the survivors and family members of the victims to be in court to deliver those statements, it was something, I think, of a cathartic exercise as well. Initially, as mentioned, the list of statements was around 60. That increased to 90 in the end as more people wanted to have their say, more people wanted to look at Brenton Tarrant, to speak directly to him in court. And they took courage from what others were saying in court. So, again, no doubt the sentence of life without parole for Brenton Tarrant, the man who killed 51 people in March last year, will be welcomed by all concerned.
Wayne, many thanks.